How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good evening. Good to see you. Good evening, ma'am. Issa, good evening. Sorry, I was trying to take down some notes. Having so many strong women at once is not going to be a bit of an uphill task. So you have to put your house in order.
You'll be just fine then.
Can anyone see me? Can anyone see me?
Hi.
Hello, can anyone?
We can't see you, Pam.
Nope.
Anyone see me? Oh, I think that should be fine now. Can anyone see me now? Oh dear.
Is that Pam?
If you're the one in blue, yes.
Okay, good.
Oh, okay. I can't even see myself.
Yeah, we can see you.
All right, so we'll be kicking off in a minute. All right, so I guess everyone can hear me loud and clear. Yeah?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. So welcome to another edition of Conversations with Isobasi. These conversations are organized under the platform of the Cross River Movement. And the Cross River Movement is a non-partisan, it's not a partisan organization. We're a not-for-profit, and we seek to bring people together, lovers of Cross River State, Cross Riverians, and create a platform for all of us to work together for a better Cross River State. Today's conversation is going to be marking the International Women's Day, which was earlier, which was actually last week. And it's a pleasure to have on the conversation, four lovely and very beautiful ladies. I'll read out their biographies, and then I will hand over to our panel.
We've lost your voice there.
I keep losing you. I don't know whether it's my side or if anybody else is experiencing that.
I think it's
Yes. We are losing you, Issa.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Just give me a brief moment to try to resolve that. Just give me a brief moment while I go off camera.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Yes, we can hear you.
Happy International Women's Day.
Same to you. Thank you.
Same to you.
Same to you.
All right, can you hear me now clearly?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay. All right, so we have on four panelists. I'll start with Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo, who is a Nigerian politician, a lawyer and development consultant with a specialty in human rights and gender equity. She's a former Nigerian ambassador to Ethiopia and founder of the Gender and Development Action Nigeria. She was elected to represent the Calabar Municipality of Dupane Federal Constituency of Cross River State during the 2011 elections. Ambassador Toyo is an expert in governance with memberships in many feminist groups and one of the conveners of the 10,000 Women's March in Abuja, organized by the Women He for She movement to address issues affecting women. For her passion and work in advancing the status of women in Nigeria, Nigerian public life, Ambassador Toyo was granted the Chevening Scholarship to study at the Institute of Development Studies, University of Sussex, where she received a master's in governance in 2001. She recently earned a master's in public administration from the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Our next panelist is Mrs. Nkoyo Rapu. Mrs. Rapu is a lawyer by profession and a woman of diverse interests and skills. She's committed to her work with children. As a member of the Board of Trustees of Freedom Foundation, which is an umbrella organization of 4 NGOs pioneering social reformation and rehabilitation among the disadvantaged in society, particularly in Lagos, Nigeria. In recognition of her efforts in community development, Mrs. Nkoyo Rapu was one of the recipients of the Genevieve Magazine Award for Outstanding Women in 2008 and the Island News Personality of the Year in 2003. Her passion for education and desire to support the less privileged led to her establishing the Bethesda Child Support Agency in 2001. And the primary focus of the agency is to address generational poverty by providing free education through the Bethesda nursery and primary schools that were set up in areas such as Ikota, Ijaye, Ojokoro, Bariga, and Matogun in Lagos and Ogun states. So our third panelist is Ms. Pamela Braid, and she is a communication and development expert, an entrepreneur, and creative in the intersection of culture, pop culture, gender and governance, and youth development, youth employment, sorry. She has worked on campaigns as diverse as the WHO-supported campaigns in Nigeria, Kenya, and Ethiopia. Pamela Braid is an escaped architect and designer. Is the founder of INT'L by PD Braid, a jewelry and giftware brand based in Nigeria. It weaves Nigerian materials, gemstones, and stories into handmade jewelry and other items. INT'L by PD Braid also curates vintage and traditional items of different kinds from master artisans around the country, from past or present. And finally, the last but certainly not the least, we have Mrs. Emilia Okon. And Emilia holds a BSc of Computer Science from the University of Calabar, Nigeria, and an associate degree of Public and Community Health from
suck his dick with a smile for hours at a time. Stare at his nutsack while I hold back my
I think someone has taken the lead back into some music.
Maybe you have to mute also.
Some good music.
Just give me a moment while I try and sort that out. Okay, I'm not sure who Gina is, but please, if you can make sure that you remain muted. Okay, so yeah, back to Mrs. Emilia Okon. So if she holds it. Okay, I'm gonna move this person out of the conversation. Okay, so Emilia holds a BS.
Why don't you just mute everyone?
Yeah, I've done that, but people unmute, people unmute themselves, unfortunately. So what I'll do, anyone who does that again, maybe I'll just move them out of the conversation altogether. All right, so Mrs. Okon,
Absolutely.
in computer science from the University of Calabar, Nigeria, and an associate degree of public health, public and community health from the University of the People, and various certifications in program management for development, gender, mainstreaming, facilitation skills, monitoring and evaluation. She has over 15 years of experience designing and implementing development programs, informing and influencing policies, and mobilizing and managing international and national volunteers. She currently leads gender integration on a health-related program in Ebonyi State, Nigeria. Emilia is highly experienced in policy and strategic government contributions to institute and mainstream gender policies and law. Recently, she played a key role in the passing of the Cross River State gender policy and the development of the Ebonyi State gender strategy in health. So join me as we welcome these four lovely ladies, and I'm going to also be handing over to Mary, who would be leading the conversation today. Dana Mary, over to you.
Thank you.
And please, I would
thank you.
Everyone remain. Okay, I'm gonna have to move that person out of the conversation.
Yes,
yeah.
Mr. Saul, could you please mute every other person? I don't know.
Sure.
Because I don't know how many people would remove, or people should be conscious enough to mute themselves. So are we together? Hello. So, Mr. So are we good? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, Dana Mary can hear you.
Okay, good day, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. We are going to make this conversation as fantastic as possible, and we're going to take home a lot of values, and possibly we would be contributing our quota to a very important subject. Today we are talking about women in leadership as regards to the just concluded 2022 Women in Leadership that had the campaign team break the bias. And we have a lot of fantastic women who have proven their mettle in different areas of endeavors. And of course, they've been taking Ambassador Toyo, for example, who's been, of course, in the forefront of Nigerian politics over a reasonable period of time. So she's got a lot of experience and a lot of counsel as well to give us. And, she would be doing that shortly. And of course, I see Emilia, I see Mrs. Nkoyorapu, Pamela Braid, beyond being very strong, a very strong lapidary. She's also very good in terms of in-depth, in terms of a lot of social advocacy, and she's been contributing her quota in terms of conversations here and there. So it's going to be a fantastic panel. So I'd like to start with Ambassador Toyo. Hello, Ambassador Toyo.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we're talking about women in leadership. You are a woman who, of course, has experienced politics in Nigeria and still is in that circle, politics in Nigeria. And if in 2022, we are having an International Women's Day with the theme, with the campaign theme, break the bias. This means significantly so that there still seems to exist a lot of bias. Women possibly still experience a lot of bias. And if we bring it home to Nigeria, where we're speaking of the affirmative action, I heard you when we're, sharing pleasantries. I think somebody spoke about affirmative action, So please, I'd like you at this point to please tell us, breaking the bias, women in leadership, where are we right now? Your point of view, where are we right now? Do you think that women are now all inclusive? Do you think our policies are protecting us? Do you think the system is, giving us room for the leadership expression that truly we deserve or we are supposed to have?
So thank you, Dan Mary, and thank you, Esau, for having me. And thank you to all the very distinguished ladies who are on the panel and all of those who've joined us to have this conversation. I'm grateful, I'm delighted to be part of this. And I also am very proudly Cross Riverian, so I am excited about the prospects of having this conversation in the context of our state as well. I have been part of the the National Women's Movement for over 35 years. And I know the journeys. I know a lot of the stories. Back in the days, it was us fighting at the level of the women's rights through FIDA and groups like that, or just redefining the conversations around access to opportunities and equality of rights using some of the international instruments that came, like the CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. So it's been a journey. We were part of all the international world conferences that brought together the language and the knowledge that we had today that women's rights are human rights. We've been protected by our constitution, but you know, equality in the constitution is different from equality outside of the constitution. So the question is, why is that the case? Why is there a law that says you are equal before the law, but at the same time, you are not exactly equal before the law? And that's been the journey of my life and of many other women who are here today of the last couple of decades. And we have been trying to say, look, we cannot accept a country where, owing to our cultural, religious, social, economic conditions, and all the many things that define us and who we are, that we will build a society around the inequalities that exist between women and men. And it's given, almost commonly accepted, that it's okay for us to exist like that. There's a recent study which I read about, which was reported by the UN resident advisor. We said that, look, 9 out of 10 men and 8 out of 10 women think it is okay for them to be led by a man. So they really don't care whether it's a man or not. So there is a strong social condition and social value system that defines the kind of village that we have. But the question you ask is, have we made any transitions from where we have been in the last couple of years? I would say yes. As a young woman, it was much more difficult to have this conversation. We remember the Better Life for Rural Women started as targeting the women and bringing them out of rural communities, giving them voice and visibility. And as soon as that started gaining some traction, the Abacha government came and took us back to family and came with the family support program. That was a reaction to the advancements that came under the Better Life. We didn't even feel very comfortable with Better Life, but that showed you the kind of forward and backward progressions that we had. I was speaking to Nkoyo Rapu earlier about the work we tried to do on getting our work and our language into the Constitution of 1999, back at the time when Nikki Toby had this committee that was looking into the 1999 Constitution and its authoring. Women did organize under Jade Shola, Professor Jade Sola Conde led the women to actually write a women's constitution, the constitution we want, and we presented that constitution to that committee. It's been a journey. It's been a journey. But today I can say that even as at the time I was in the National Assembly, which was 2011 to 2015, we did have the Constitutional Reform Committee that tried to look at some of the very same clauses, particularly the ones around affirmative action. We've had a couple of other attempts at doing this outside of the Constitution, the Equal Opportunities Bill being one, even the Violence Against Persons Protection Act, which came out as persons or initially started as violence against women. So these journeys have been ongoing. We have been able to make some progress. The VAP bill, the VAP Act, for example, is a major progress, but implementation is hugely slow. So we have, in terms of legislation, you talked about policy. We have done the women's policy. Now we have the gender policy as well, the national gender policy. States do have the national gender policy. The VAP bill has been domesticated in many states. So in terms of the framing of the conversation, the framing of the policy environment, a lot has happened already. Not enough at all. But what needs to happen more is for us to begin to take those laws and those policies into the spaces where people's lives are changed and impacted upon. I must say that the voices of women have grown. In the last couple of days, I have been hugely impressed and pleasantly happy to be a woman in Nigeria, where the women moved in after the vote against those 5 gender clauses, moved into the National Assembly, occupied the grounds of the National Assembly, and said there's no going back. until they listen to us. We do have the opportunity of revisiting some of those clauses now, and that shows that majorly we're being listened to. Not enough is happening beyond that policy space. In the political parties, it's still a dead end. There are many more spaces we need to still get into and make the change that we want happen. But progress is at hand, and I want to say we need to celebrate ourselves as Nigerian women for the work we've done so far. And Mary, thank you. I've just concluded there. Could you hear me?
Mary, you're muted. You're muted. So if you can unmute yourself, please. Mary, you're still muted. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello, Mr. Isol. You muted me. I'm trying to unmute, and it's you to unmute me.
All right. Apologies for that. Carry on.
Good. The conversation was really, Ambassador Toyo landed very well, because I was going to ask a very pertinent question. The framework, the policies are in order, but as a politician, we know that all politics is local, is grassroots. How well have these frameworks, how well has all these beautiful policies and everything that is worked at that level, how well does it trickle down or interpret to day-to-day living? I want to go a little more personal as a female politician, okay, who interacts with people. How is the acceptance when women want to vie for political office? We're talking about women in leadership. Is it the same way? Do they get the same kind of acceptance the way the men get? Do you face some kind of hurdles here and there because you're a woman or because you're female? You are even a female who has been there for a while. So what is it like generally? It's one thing to say women come out, but what is it like in this space? Let me zero it down to Cross River State.
For Cross River State, of course, the politics has been a politics defined by leaders, and the leaders tend to be male. So it's not a very open space in terms of who gets to make those decisions. I would not say that the male situation is entirely the same as it is in most other spaces that we are familiar with. However, what I tend to see is that when people say that we don't want a woman, they're actually afraid of the woman. They're actually afraid that the woman is going to come and share the space with them. So that's a real problem. There is a challenge there of how can we run these spaces in ways that gender become. You cannot hear me? You cannot hear me?
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. I saw Pamela saying she can't hear. Okay, so it's actually not as easy as it is, because we are not in the spaces where those decisions are made. So as much as people will tolerate you when they think you are strong enough to come out, and not many women show the strength which I have shown, because I've been around much longer than most women. But even for me, as one who's been around this long, it's not that easy, because I'm not in all the spaces where the critical decisions are being made. And those are the spaces where language is, your language doesn't get into that space. And this is the language of we women can do what the men can do. We're not in competition. We're here to complement one another. And we are trying to build a society which is more inclusive, and that diversity pays. It pays a country to be diverse, to use diversity as a sense of what you want to become in the future and the kind of country you want to build. So in short, my dear sister, it's not easy, but I think the first thing you must do to yourself as a woman coming out into that space is to own up to the fact that it's not going to be easy, and to hold on to that space and to make it your own and redefine it in your own language and sense. This afternoon, just before I came online, somebody walked up to me and said, oh, they say your husband is from Akwa Ibom. So we're not going to give you the Akwa Ibom, you should go back to Akwa Ibom and run. I mean, that's language I heard like 12 years ago when I came to run this election. And now it's the language that's coming back. Obviously language from my opponents. But the beauty of it is that they are worried about my husband. They are not worried about me this time. because they are not saying to me, you cannot run, you're not competent enough, you're not competitive enough. So it's a different argument this time around. So, you know, the point I'm trying to make is that for a woman, it's layered, very layered. But I'm saying at the same time that that mustn't be the excuse for us not to try. We must try. It's difficult, it's demanding, but we must always show, and as women have shown in leadership, that we can compete, we can hold our space, and we can hold our heads up high and do the things that we need to do going forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Toyo. We'll come back to you. Let me go to Emilia. Are you here? Emilia? Emilia? Oh, can everybody hear me? Is Emilia there? Because I had a question for her.
Dana, carry on and ask your question, and then.
Okay, good. No, the reason why I was, you know, calling Emilia, because I know she's a gender mainstreaming specialist. Yes, and I wanted this question to, you know, to be direct, but maybe I should go to Mrs. Nkoyo Rapu. I want to ask Mrs. Rapu, do you think that women are really ready? You know, we're talking about women in leadership. Do you think that these opportunities are possibly there? Because sometimes I go through comments that people make on subject matters that have to do with gender equality. Do you really think that women, beyond saying that they are ready, besides the, hello? Are we there?
Hi, Dana Mary, I was trying to unmute myself.
Okay, fantastic.
You know me, yeah, Mr. Esau muted me and then took the right of unmute.
Okay, that's
so
fine.
I couldn't even respond. But I'm listening to you now. So
okay, now we are talking about women in leadership. Of course, we've been able to establish that there are struggles here and there. And Ambassador Toyo has said that at the framework level, at the policy level, yes, we have a couple of progress, you know, no matter the pace, but we are making progress at that level. And we are hoping that this progress would translate to every citizen, every individual, every structure recognizing that women, you know, should be equal in privileges, in opportunities, and should be treated in leadership without bias. But now I want to talk, you know, I want you to come from the perspective or from the angle of the fact, are women ready? You know, are women, you know, sometimes even when the door is open and then you don't move towards the open door is another thing. Do you think women at this time and at this age are ready? The bulk of the women, the majority of the women are ready to take on, you know, the space, the leadership space, the political space, whatever leadership there is that is in existence, particularly in Cross River State. I always want to zero it down to Cross River State because, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what these conversations are about. Do you think we're ready?
That's a very tricky question to say if we are ready, if we're indeed ready. I do believe that a number of us are ready to take on leadership positions. I do believe that a number of us do have the skills. We have what it takes to take on leadership position, especially in governance. If you look around, those who make a lot of noise about what is going wrong within governance, you see a number of very good women, well-educated, well-read, very good skills, and some of them have left the states to work somewhere else. So I do think a number of us are ready to take on leadership position. But what I do not think Cross River State is ready for is to see more women in leadership positions. I do not think that the party leaders are ready to see more women take on, you know, leadership positions. I don't think even those in governance, politicians, especially men, I mean, this is not a conversation to make anybody feel uncomfortable. The issue is that more men are not ready to see women take on leadership positions. Let's go to party leadership. Which party even has a lot of women in their party executive? Because that is where you begin to see that they are positioning women to take on leadership position. When you have your party meetings, for instance, state party meetings, ward party meetings, what do women do at that level? Are they at the table of taking decisions, or they are planning for welfare or food and drinks and refreshment at that level? Even at the level of youth, let's go down at the youth leadership for party. How many women are taking decisions there? So it's unfortunate that if we're not strategic, we would still be having this same conversation in the next 10 years, because we don't start at the top. You need to start at the bottom. At the bottom means you need to prepare women from the ward level to LGA to state for them to be able to take on leadership. Women have a lot of skills to offer, but we are not strategically positioned to take on those leadership. And it's because those spaces have not been created. We are trying to take it. People like Ambassador Nkoyo are doing, struggling and pushing, but strategically, for us to be able to have a very good outcome in this kind of conversation in the next, let's say 10 years or 15 years, we need to begin to reorient ourselves. We've gone past, I mean, in the South, for instance, it's not that our culture or traditional role exactly says women should all be in the kitchen. I'm Efik, for instance, and I know that we are not groomed to stay and begin and stay in the kitchen or not work or not have money for yourself. But the issue is you cannot do that all by yourself. You need the support of men who have been in leadership positions in governance for many, many years to understand the need to begin to create spaces and be deliberate about bringing women on board from ward level, party level to state level. You know, that's how we should go. That would be my response, Diana Mary.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
in essence, I think we have a lot of skills on board. Yes, we have a lot of skills on board, but of course, we need the spaces, no positions, and then of course, men are not exactly ready to shift ground for anyone. Diana Mary, are you with us? I think she's been muted again.
I'm with you.
Mr. Song, please unmute her.
Yes, it's the unmute here. Okay, fine. Can you hear me now? Well, Emilia, you've spoken
yes,
well.
When
you started your conversation, you started by saying this is not to make anybody uncomfortable. But you see, at the end of the day, to get some results, maybe some people have to be uncomfortable, because these are things that we have to talk about, really, genuinely speaking. I was in a meeting one day and somebody said they wanted to make me women leader. And I said, it's not typical. That's not where I fit in naturally. I don't know how to do it. A women leader, that is one of the offices that women, is just for women leader of all the choices, those ones that they think women, because she's just a woman, so she's the woman leader, she'll be good enough, or maybe we have to define those roles and make it more favorable for the drive, or for the vision, or for what we want to achieve as women. You said
so
something
I'm sorry,
about,
not to cut you very quickly, in terms of the issue, you talked about the issue of gender mainstreaming. So rather than them give you a women leaders role, they should say, in our executive, how many are we? We are 7. Let's at least give 2 to 3 positions for it to make sure that women have those positions. So you're not just a women leader. When they sleep and wake up and say, go and call your women, we'll give them salt and wrapper and sing and dance for us. But you have 3 women in their executive who are going to make decisions that will favor every other woman at different levels. That is the kind of strategy we should be talking about.
Good, fantastic. Are we there? Hello. So I hope I've not been unmuted.
Diana Mary, I think you seem to be muting yourself.
I'm not the one. I'm not even touching anything.
Okay.
I'm not touching anything. So maybe you should leave me unmuted. Okay.
I'm not doing anything myself.
All right. So now we've spoken about, Emilia, there's one thing I've gotten for me is that when we get to politics at the local level, at the state level, let the offices be shared. Women are supposed to say, after all, we have a women leader, because at the end of the day, from having 10 positions, you will just have one woman, and that woman will be the woman leader. So what we are trying to say, in other words, is that we have 10 offices. Women should take like 4, 5, so that they can be balanced, or 3, 4, 5, right? That is progress. So at that point, we know that our interest, because women have much more to offer than be a woman leader coordinating women from central, north, and south. Okay, fantastic. That's what I'm going to take up. I want to talk to I was going to ask you about gender mainstreaming. We are going to come to that. I want to talk a little bit with Mrs. Nkoyo Rapu. Mrs. Nkoyo, is she there? Can she hear me? If she can't hear me, maybe I'll just go ahead. It's one
Yes, I
thing.
am.
Okay, good.
Yes, I am.
In as much as this conversation has Cross River State as the center, like Cross River State is our concern, but we cannot isolate Cross River State from the national structure, from Nigeria, as it were. And we want our progress to go, because even if we succeed as a state, our women are going to succeed way beyond Cross River State. Like Ambassador Toyo has done fantastic and has been at the National Assembly, has gained recognition. So our women are going to go through the roof and get to national level. Do you think, we have the concern of culture, certain cultures that do not permit, per se, obviously, so women to take spaces that lead, that spell leadership. Do you think this is going to be a problem? Do you think that also to address these issues, we should have a cultural approach as well? Which maybe may not be to a large degree affecting us here in Cross River State, but yes, we have some other concerns. As women, some people talk about family, she has other things she's doing, will she be able to? I've had people ask me, will you be able to, as a married woman, will you be able to come for meetings? Will you be able to do this since you're married? Is this not good? I always get that question a lot. So what do you think about this, culture and the fact that people agenda tilts to certain responsibility, either given by society or given by God himself? How do you think we can grapple with this? Do you think this is a concern? Do you think this is slowing us down? And if you think so, how do you think we can address this?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying I'm very delighted to be part of the conversation surrounding the progress of Cross River State and also Nigeria by extension. And I'm glad to be on the panel with such inspiring ladies who have achieved much. Let me also single out Ambassador Toyo for special commendation in the fight to get women empowered, aware, and politically positioned for leadership in this country. I recall that I met her about 1999, 98, as she has mentioned, as we sought to work towards the 1999 Constitution and affirmative action for women. Having said that, I commend her for her tireless, indefatigable fight. And I'm glad at least she got ambassadorial position, but I know that she's positioned to achieve much more as a strong leader, state and even national. So I hope that she's intending to go for a significant position, because I will certainly back her up. And if I lived in Calabar, mobilize sufficient power to position a woman, because I believe, I'll come to your question, I believe that women in Cross River, no disregard to the strength of the men, have the passion and the zeal and strength of character for leadership. Now, having said that, I think the question you're asking me, I would like to situate it in, position it in the context of a larger picture. And I have picked up a few phrases that I would like to comment on or highlight, which are of value, and I think a lot of importance in the discussion to be very serious-minded about our mandate. We have another chance in another year, elections. What are we going to do beyond the rhetoric of what we are discussing? What will our strategy be? What will our action plan be? What is also the plan to politically educate the next generation? Because sometimes in Nigeria, we firefight. We try to quench the fire when it's already started and gained ground, it's spreading. But how do we preempt and position ourselves such that we are strategic in achieving our objective? And so I like what Ambassador Toyo said about critical decision making. We are not positioned where critical decisions are being taken. That's an important thing. Why I highlight this is because if we know our problems, then we would plan in advance on how to address those issues. And they have to be addressed in a strategic, progressive manner. So how do we position ourselves? So I'm taking this beyond the question you asked me, if you don't mind, to even address culture. I don't think culture is our limitation. I think we have more important things like positioning ourselves to getting behind the closed doors and be involved in taking critical decisions. We need financial empowerment. The women have passion. The women are willing. But how do we empower ourselves financially to be able to be independent candidates that can advance beyond this issue of political godfathers? Then what are we going to do to empower the grassroots people and change their mindset from this politics of hungry, this politics that feeds us at the place where we've, I don't know, takes advantage of poverty and sways the people into selling their birthright, if I may put it that way, because they are being given pittance. It doesn't change their lifestyle, but they accept temporary elevation for their poverty. How are we going to address that? And how are we going to position, educate the next generation so that the last elections, we found out in the area where I live, it was only the much older people who came out to vote. The young people didn't even get voters' card. They were not registered. Some of them who registered could not even stand stand in the sun for more than an hour. No resilience. Those are a critical number. The numbers of young people in Nigeria, they are critical to the decision of any election. If the elections are to be fair and transparent, how do we galvanize the young people in Cross River State and educate them to be politically aware so that they can support a candidate who would change their future and not rely on the now? How do we eat rather than how do we empower ourselves and change government to benefit our future? That would be my own contribution or comments.
Okay, can you hear?
Yes, I can.
Me now.
I think when we
Okay.
address this, the issue of culture, as you've asked me, sort of fades into, well, not coming out as a priority for now.
No, so what Mrs. Nkoyo-Rabo has done is to spot some of the problems, to speak of some of the problems. And let me quickly ask, is Pamela there, please, Ms. Braid? Pamela Braid. We've spoken of, hello, Pam.
Yeah,
Mrs. Rapport has spoken about how can we position ourselves. She's spoken about, the problems pretty much so. And one of the things she mentioned is politics at grassroots, not collecting things so that some of the things that are given to people at grassroots level to vote is salt and Maggi. And most of the times, the people that collect these things are women, the salt and the Maggi. And the little, no, hold on a second, salt and Maggi, so how do we at this point, address some of these problems? Pamela, you're very exposed and very wide-read and very conversant with, social issues, so tell me, some of these problems or more that you can highlight, how do you think we can address them to really make women get to the forefront, break through the doors? Do you think that being diplomatic in approach is not good? Do you think we should carry placards and say we want our rights? Do you think it needs a radical approach? What do you think, Pamela?
I think it needs every approach, every single kind of approach, because people are different. And so long as it's asking for the same thing, you need different approaches, because different approaches will hit at different people. But the overall message, can be the same. And I think that
I don't know if it's only me, but we're really struggling with your audio, Ms. Braid.
This is Koiraku, and she said something very key, and that's about women.
I can't hear Pamela. Pamela, there's something wrong with your audio though. Hello, Pamela.
I think she's having challenges with her.
I think Cross River is very peculiar to me, in the sense that it's a place where there are a lot of strong women. I schooled.
Dana Mary, I think everyone's struggling to hear Ms. Braid, so I don't know if you want to move the conversation on and then come back to her.
Yeah, hello. Okay. Pamela says she's going to switch to her phone and she'll be back now. So obviously she's trying to rectify the audio problems, because this conversation is very, very, I really want to get that response. It's one thing for us to sit at the table like this and speak about the fact that women need, their equality, need the space in leadership and all other places. Women have to be treated equal, without bias. We've had these conversations over time. The progress report may be a little slow at a particular level, but we need it to trickle down at different levels so that we see meaningful and significant results. So, so asking the question of approach, what approaches should we take? In politics, we see that when people want to go for elections, we see that people go for house-to-house campaign. It's a strategy. It's a way that they get people to know about their preferred candidates and who to vote for, what political parties to vote for. So a struggle of this nature or something of this nature also needs a kind of approach that is either radical, like Ms. Pamela is trying to say, where we need to adopt all kinds of approaches available. We need to know what these approaches are so that after this conversation, our plan Bs and all that could be built from here. So it's important that Ms. Braid comes back on. What are the approaches we are going to take? What are the things? Now, maybe we should look at the areas of sensitization. I don't know if I'm going to come back now to Emilia. Emilia, hello, are you there?
Yeah, I'm with you very much.
Good. We are talking about gender mainstreaming. If I get it right from the words that I get there, how to put our gender, in the mainstream. So maybe let's talk about these approaches. You've spoken about the fact that when we, as this message from you, I have learned that when I am in a political gathering and they want to elect office, at the party level, I will say that women deserve much more than women leader. That there are women who are capable to become the secretary. There are women who are capable to become the leaders. There are women, so we begin to lend our voice, but it is not enough for only me to know that. Other women need to know this so that we know what we are agitating for. So beyond dialogue time, we are at the point where we should take action points. So now, Mrs. Emilia, what are some of the approaches that you think that women can take women can take to say, look, these are the things that we want now, not at the framework level where policies are made, but at the day-to-day, I'm trying to take a political approach, the grassroots level, the normal level. For example, let me give you a little example. Ambassador Toyo is a woman who's foremost in politics, okay? And at least knowing little news here and there, she's vying for candidacy of her party to become governor. And it's important that women begin to understand this. If she has said that, you know, it's not that the ambassador is not capable, but the fact that she's a woman is a little threatening. Now, you know, all excuses, what does her husband think, and all of that coming up here and there. Now, for women, are women conscious enough that it is okay? Are women conscious enough to support their gender who is qualified, who is capable? How can we, what approach can we use to sensitize women some more that there is a need for women in leadership? I'm sorry, I'm going to make this question long. There is a concern that I've been pushing for a very long time. And I have started thinking that because we don't have enough women in leadership, that's why that is not gaining voice. The fact that knocking off taxes from sanitary towels are very important, you know, because at some point I'm beginning to think that it's either because we don't have a lot of women in positions where some of these decisions can be taken. That's why it looks like those people who are lending their voice to this struggle are just whispering because the voice is not getting to the right quarter. So I don't really understand, or it's treated like not very important. So what are some of the approaches you think we can take so that women will get very involved, understand the problem, and get very involved so that they can get more places in leadership for the betterment of women?
Yeah, so I'll quickly take off from where Pam left. Pam was trying to say that we need all the approaches, and it's true. We need all kinds of approaches. We need the one that you use social media all the time. There are some people that used to do blogs, you know, those days, and they would write a lot about women in governance, and people within the social media space would learn. The way we write about GBV, you know, on social media now. Before now, it was violence against women. People weren't writing so much about it. But because, of course, there's a little bit of funding in it, people are writing a lot about GBV, response, and all that. It is the same way we should be writing about women in governance. Then a lot of other younger women will now be learning from this process. We should also be doing a lot around reorienting young women in the university, even in secondary school. There is a program that an organization I know, this daughter, Abiola's wife's daughter, the one that has an organization. Pam used to work with that organization. I did something for the organization. Kind used to have a program for young women in the university. So what they did is, for all the young women who wanted to do any form of government, class rep, is all those young women, and train them on leadership and encourage them to take on more leadership positions in school. So for me, I feel before we even get to the state level, we should be starting with the school level. What are you doing in secondary school? You know, it's at secondary school that they start orienting our daughters that you cannot be the overall school prefect. They give you that permanent position of deputy. They make only the boys contest for school prefect. It is at that secondary school position that we should begin to push that, no, we should dislodge this thing that have been there for years. How many young girls can contest for overall school prefect in secondary school? How many young girls can contest for SUG president in a university? Remember last year what happened to the young girl in the East, a university in the East that contested for SUG president, how berated she was. What support did she have? You know, what level of, she was strong enough, but how many young women around her were reoriented enough to support her? So I think we need all kinds of strategy. Training and reorienting young girls in secondary school, training and reorienting young girls in the university, constant conversation on women in governance in the social media. We can have a program using whether radio or TV, anyhow, we would be mobilizing. When we are mobilizing women at the rural areas, we don't mobilize women properly. And I will say this is why. We mobilize them to say, women, come, your governor and your senator has come. They have something for you. They say if you vote them, we will give you salt, we will give you Maggi, we will give that. We will change the strategy of mobilizing women at the rural area. We would be telling them that salt and Maggi is not enough. They should not collect salt and Maggi again. They should demand for something more. If you want us to vote you want our vote as women, and tell us what you want to do for us. The women have needs at the local area. Look at their markets. Have you seen the rural market, how it looks like? No protection, all kinds of violence is going on at the place. The markets look like somewhere that is very rough and very unkempt. They have specific local needs. They should name their needs, and those needs will be taken back to whoever is asking for their support. And at least they should be able to go back and do those things for women. So maybe we should, not even maybe, we should change our method of mobilizing rural women, because we are mobilizing them like illiterates. We should mobilize them as people who understand what they need and have demands to make. So for me, I think all kinds of strategy is fair, is fine, as far as it works. As far as it works. And the one that actually, in a way, pains me and baffles me is that I would go back to something. One thing is clear. We usually say any woman can go. As far as it's a woman, let the woman go with support. But in recent times, I have begun to refuse to support just any woman, because quantity is not enough as quality. Honestly, I would prefer that a woman who might know the background and understands the issues, and when the person gets there, the person would be able to speak to the issue. I am going to support, because we've had a number of them go there now, and all they do is line up behind the men. They don't support our issues. In fact, they become bottlenecks to women. You don't have access because of these women that you pushed into the scene. So we don't want that to happen. We would be able to groom the kinds of women that we want to go there and speak to the issue. So that's
Wow.
that's how I would love to, angle that kind of my response.
Emilia, you've raised some very fantastic points. The first one you said is that
someone is busy abusing me in the chat too.
No, don't worry about
Yeah,
that.
please don't ignore that. I'm going to kick the person.
No, Mr. Saw.
Yeah.
Mr. Saw. Well, once you get yourself into a struggle, you're going to have people with diverse and divergent. You're going to be offending people the moment you want to come up for air. And so we as women will recognize the fact that it's not a struggle that they are going to have red carpets and hand us roses. And so people are going to come with divergent views and opinions, okay? So let me apologize to our panelists for whatever bad behavior we may perceive. It is part of what happens. I mean, in every protest, you're going to get people say, no, when your voice wants to be heard, so let us ignore all of that distraction. But there's a very important question somebody asked, and I think that we should address. Emilia, you spoke, and please, in case there's a repertoire or somebody who is taking that notes, there are two things that Emilia has said that is very important. We must start from the very beginning. We must start from the very beginning. The beginning for children. It is you're going to see that in schools today, they still teach children that the woman's place is in the kitchen. The woman's place is much more beyond the kitchen. At this age and time, my daughter's civic book or social study book still carries that. So first, it builds an impression in the minds of the girls and the boys that this is who the woman is and this is who the man is. While I agree that the woman is capable of doing so many things, she is also capable of being a leader. That takes me, so if there was a repertoire, we should start from the very beginning. Emilia said two things: teach the children from schools that women can vie for political office and they can get the support that they need. And secondly, Emilia also said something about not just any woman should be in government. And I was going to come to Ambassador Toyo, to Pamela, to ask her, do you think we are generations apart? We are generations apart. Possibly right now we are struggling to get the relevance or the visibility that we need in leadership. Okay, do we think the generation behind us understand the struggle? And are they equipping themselves to fit into the shoes, right? To do what is expected of us? But there's a very important question somebody asked, and I think that we should take that question. The person made
Hello, Dana Mary.
Hello? Donna Mary.
Yes,
And
I'm
America,
here.
we lost you.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, we can hear you now.
There's a question that somebody asked, and I really want to. Somebody asked a very comprehensive question. I think we should address it. I'm trying to get to the chat. Okay, here we are. And this is the person's question. The person says, looking at the state of the nation and how the youth have gone completely astray, I wonder if our ambitions as women is at the expense of the well-being of our kids. As we continue to aspire to be at par with men, would we still be able to play our role as mothers? Can we truly strike the right balance? Who will give the kids the guidance they require? Can women do it at all at the same time? These are important questions. Maybe I should try, Pamela, before I come to you, Ambassador Toyo. Ambassador Toyo. Oh, maybe I lost her. Pamela, you want to say something about this before she comes here, please?
Yeah, I want to say something. You know, when I hear a sentiment like that, I'm very careful, and I'm a bit confused sometimes, because I don't think it's mothers alone that need to be raising young people. Young people, they're men, they're women, you know, they need guidance, they need role models, they need, you know, because, okay, let's face it, this is the smallest, this is the least amount of percentage of women we've had ever in the two houses. Okay, that means less women, it means the children are being raised, I mean, everything is great, right? So, well, it's not. So perhaps people should view more women in decision-making as a win for everybody. Perhaps that's what we actually need to, you know, to get our society moving optimally. I think it's the other way around. There should be no fear. It would be a wonderful thing.
Pam, let me jump in really quickly. Someone is afraid that can women do it all? Is the same way they question what in the career space, in the workspace, why a man questions my ability to do my job well just because I am a woman. And another woman too is questioning my ability to raise my children properly because I decided to take on a job. And my own simple response is, this was okay many years back. It was okay when you said men should be hunters. They should go to the bush and find the food that we are all going to eat. And women's role were mainly caregiving, where our job was to sit down, give birth to children, cook all the meals, and everybody was okay. But we all know, I will say it again and again, this is another century. This thing doesn't work. It doesn't work. You cannot use the rules that works in
our job.
Yes, how many years ago?
That was
exactly.
Not our job. Women farmed. Women traded.
We traded. You cannot use those rules and tell us now. For instance, the simple example I am going to give. If a man wants to get married today, he will see a very beautiful girl from a very beautiful home. All his mind is jiggy, jiggy, jaga, jaga. He wants to marry. But do you know the first things his family or his brothers and his uncle will ask him? What is she doing? They have said that they don't want to marry women who are liabilities anymore. Apparently, you have to have something doing that you're bringing something to the table, this table that we have been talking about for how many years now. You have to have a job, a role, a business, an income that you're bringing to the table, which means everybody's hands must be on deck. If I am bringing something to the table economically, then I cannot in any way be taking care of my children by myself. I didn't bring them to this world by myself. The person who helped me, we work together to bring children to this world, should also be able to assist to ensure we care and groom these kids in a way that they will be useful to anybody else within the society. So we need to be able to begin to reorient ourselves. Leave your what are women going to cut role, they are going to be able to do it. If they don't do it well, they need support. Where are you giving the support? That is what we should be talking about. At what place? What is the gap? Where are you feeling and how are you feeling the gap? So that is what we should be discussing, not if we can be able to do it well. That would be my response, Diana Mary. Honestly, we have left those ideas many years back. Is Diana Mary still with us?
Diana Mary, we can't hear you.
Technology.
Oh, that she's silent. It means she is really having issues with
Diana Mary,
network.
we're unable to hear you. Okay, so while she's sorting out her audio, I'll just read out a comment. So this is David Atom says, good evening all. Chief Mrs. Margaret Ekpo and other such women would be greatly saddened. The conversation she had in the 1940s to the 1950s is still the same conversation still being had today. So that's
exactly. Exactly. Honestly, it is rather sad. It's rather sad. And Pam, you were trying to say something about the fact that we didn't exactly stay at home and care for children. We did other things as African women, honestly. African history would have it. African women were not exactly seated at home per se. They were traders, they did so many things. They were out, they were farmers, you know, even if their farming wasn't exactly cash crop and a lot of other things, but they were doing a number of things with caring of children also. Diana Mary, are you here?
Diana Mary, are you here? If anyone has a question or comment to make, if you can just use the reactions icon there to indicate, I would unmute you and you can ask your question. Diana Mary, are you here? Diana Mary? Okay, so I think we've got a question from Hannah Etta. So I'm going to unmute you. If you can just go ahead, please.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Hi.
Good evening, Ma. Hannah again. So I just want to make a contribution. For me, I think we always wait till the very last minute, we the women. So what I'm going to suggest is 2023 is here. We've seen postcards of everybody wants to be Nigerian president, everybody wants to be a governor, but I don't even think I've seen, I think it's only one female on a poster that I've seen so far. So I think this is a time to not just bring out posters, present a manifesto. Let us know, at least among the women groups, let us know exactly what the woman representative is bringing to us. We have so many issues dangling in Nigeria. Personally, I'm looking for somebody to vote for that is ready to correct the carnage that we find ourselves in. Somebody that can come to the table and is like, I'm going to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4 is done. All the perpetrators of evil from wherever it started till the present will be made to face the consequences of their actions. Because one major problem I see in Nigeria that keeps the evil alive, nobody prosecutes anybody. In fact, the people that should be prosecuted are the ones prosecuting. You will hear that this person did something, a senator slapped a woman on the internet the other time, till now he's still sitting on his seat. A governor did this and did that and did this, he's still governing. He's above the law. So let us have that lady come out. Apart from putting up posters, let us hear that so and so person that did this, or so and so thing that was done wrongly is going to be fixed. This is what I have. This is what I have. And then we, the women, will go back home and talk among ourselves. Let us support this lady. Like one of the speakers just said, it's not enough to say, oh, a woman is coming out. Every woman should. Let's know what she's coming to give us. You won't come to give us the same bread we've been eating and we all rush behind you. And then for the issue of the villagers that go about receiving Maggi and Rapa, I think we should target the leaders among those women. They have leaders. There's a kind of hierarchy among them. And sensitize those leaders. So they go back to their women and tell them, anybody that brings Rapa here, set fire on him. I mean, there was a video of Ghanaian youth. A politician packed bags of rice to go and give them. They returned the rice. It was on the internet. They returned the rice back to the truck and asked them to carry their rice and go, that they don't want rice. We should start doing that. You bring the wrapper, bring the Maggi, we return it. But somebody has to talk to the women down there, because for them, they see those things as something, a pack of Maggi.
Thanks very much. I think the point is noted. I don't know, Dana Mary, are you able to speak? Otherwise, Ambassador Toyo, obviously, you're running for office, and the Cross River movement is non-partisan, but Anna talked about needing to hear what it is that you might be bringing to to the office of governor if you're elected. And, I think we should give you the opportunity to speak a bit about that.
So thank you, sir. I'm very grateful to have the opportunity. I'll just say to Hannah that if she definitely needs to do some sort of background check on all the names, quite a lot of names are on all forms of social media platforms. And my suggestion would be that since she's keen on making up her mind on who to vote for, it's time to begin to do some background checks on the various candidates that are, or aspirants that are vying for the Cross River State position. There are quite a couple of us, and therefore we have to probably have a sort of weighted approach to who to support and who not to support. But thank you again. I just wanted to say to my sister that Emilia, that there's a lot happening within the political parties actually. The story that women are just clapping and collecting salt and pepper and things. There's actually a difference between what's happening inside the political parties and what's happening with the general voter population. Those ones we gather once every 4 years and we speak to them about things, and we throw things at them and we try to lobby them with their votes and money and everything. But within the political party, there's a lot happening in terms of women's organizing. And I know that because in my own case, I'm now working directly with the political parties to say to the women, and we have a slogan now, no woman, no election. That's what we say in the PDP. So there's some consciousness as to this question of our involvement and our inclusion. And towards the National Women's Convention, we even went to the point of buying the form for a woman to run as a deputy national woman, as a deputy national chairman of the party. Wrong language, but that's what it is. So we've done quite a lot in terms of pushing and getting our voices heard. The 35% representation is inside the party, but oftentimes the choice of who gets it is the big question. And the safe position is what we call the woman leader. And that's where we resort to in the end, not because that's what we are allowed to do, or that's what the Constitution envisages, but because that's generally the easiest one to get to. And that's where women find themselves. So let me just say that, yes, the parties are doing enough, but I must say something that may make me a little bit unpopular on this platform, because I have my friends from civil society on it. Pamela is here, Amelia is here, and a couple of others which I know in Cross River State. I would like to ask them, when was the last time they supported any woman who was running for any position? Just by way of asking. Or when was the last time they recruited any woman to run for any position? I say this not because I want to deride anybody, but I think there's a huge disconnection between talking about things and what we actually do in terms of getting women into those spaces. We must ourselves, because we have done a lot of mentoring of these young people to get them to run. Part of the reason why the 35% is not working is that the women don't even show up to pick up those 35%, and they don't show up for many reasons. If they had the backing of some of our strong women in civil society saying, you have 35% in your constitution, you must implement that constitution, or we will take you to court, which is what we tried to do during the national convention of the party, when women in politics headed by Ebere Ifendu walked up to the PDP and said, if you don't give the women 35%, we're going to go to court on this issue. And that really rattled the party deeply. And now they have reached a point where they said to us, please, we're sorry, we didn't know about 35%, blah, blah, blah. It's not enough, it's not good enough, but I must tell you that that partnership between civil society and ourselves led to quite a bit of a scare within the party. And I am almost certain that going forward, the party is not going to take this matter lightly. But let me come to you, Hannah, about myself. I've been very much around, and I'll be happy to share quite a bit of what I stand for. I've run for the House of Representatives before, and I drove my campaign largely on the fine things, what I call the accountabilities of governance. Just to summarize what I meant by accountability of governance is that exactly the point you made about things not mattering, things not being enforced, things not counting, even if people fall off the table in terms of what they ought to do and what they do not ought to do, they are not expected to do. Nobody's asking questions, nobody's setting standards, nobody's demanding accountability. So I ran my elections at the time on the accountabilities of governance, and I used the plural word, because I believe that there are many forms of accountability. It could be a form of accountability to punish. It could be a form of accountability to lose something, like you are taxed or you are made to pay levies or something like that. So there are many forms of accountabilities, and I drove my work largely on that. And in every community that I represented in the 23 wards that made up my constituency, I tried to do one or two things in every ward, so that I was accountable to that constituency at every ward level. It's either a classroom block or renovation of schools or brought in a medical facility. It's based on what the community and ourselves agreed on to do that I got to do that. But above all of that, I dealt with the fundamental problem of Cross River State. And I hope the Cross River State movement is paying some attention to that. The culture of work, the culture of productivity, the culture of accountabilities. I get a lot of, I have to hold back myself as a politician many times. When we're dealing with something, somebody comes into a contract with you and is supposed to deliver on something, and then you say, but you were supposed to do this yesterday. And the person said, Mommy, I had a program in church. That's Cross River for you. Mommy, I had a program in church. The inability to account for time, account for the things which they do, account for their own self-commitment to deliver on things is hugely worrisome. If you really want to transform the state into a state that is it's competitive in terms of what it comes to the table with. But for this particular election, I'm running for the governorship, and I think I'm the most qualified to do that. Not only do I have a history of having worked in civil society for many decades, in the women's movement for many years, in the human rights community, I've been very much involved even at a regional, national, state level, as well as an international level. My work history transcends all of that. But for this election, I'm going to be looking at three things. I'm going to be thinking about how to recover, which is how the state is at the state where you, Hannah, have identified a very, very broken state. Hannah, I'll tell you that as I sit here, I tremble at the thought of where the state is. I was talking to some people in Bakassi, and they told me that those 52 buildings that Ayade built and donated to the community are all vandalized. There's no human being living there. Our community goes to the point, the revolt against leadership in Cross River State is happening at the level of communities. When I was in the National Assembly, I built a Songhai farm with over 600 million naira from different sources. I would go around ministries, gather all sorts of projects, and brought them into that community. That farm was already training people. We sent over 100 people to IITA to be trained on different forms of farming and products and things like that. We were working with the Institute of Agriculture. We were working with different institutes across the country, agriculture-focused institutes across the country. As I speak to you today, the entire place has been vandalized. I built a clinic in one community. They burnt down the place. I started a housing estate. We brought lights to the housing estate, we brought transformers. They've stolen everything there. The level at which what you saw in Nsan is happening in small forms across the state is unimaginable. There is a revolt going on in the state. There is a revolt. And I don't think leadership understands that. We are at a level where people are saying we're tired of the kind of society we have, but nobody is acting. Those simmerings will come to the fore in the course of time. That's why I think that we need a different paradigm of engagement with leadership as we go forward. I present something called SHIREP, and it looks at sustainability. We don't get into anything without sustainability. Are we still on?
Yes, you're on. I can
Thank
hear
you. We don't look, it's called SHIREP. It's S for sustainability, H for human capital development, because I think if there's one thing Cross River State must think about seriously, it's how its human capital is being developed. I is for critical infrastructure. I don't think we can, with the level of debt and indebtedness of the state, build all infrastructure, but we must think about what's critical and we must work around that. And in critical infrastructure, one of my key points of entry will be energy. And I think we must look at renewable energy as one of our main driving forces for the rebuilding of the economies of the state. The next thing is I'm looking at regionalization, because we are a border country, a border state. We're bordering the Cameroons, and you know about the huge influx of refugees, the Amazonian conflict, the state of Bakassi, the statelessness of many in Bakassi, and just the international waters that we border, and the issues of growing piracy, militancy, and all the drugs and things that are moving through the waterways. And under that, it's actually coming security. And I'm also thinking of social protection, because I don't want to think security just about what we lose, but also about what we are not giving to the people in order that we may calm them down. The next thing is economic development, which I think is critical, but it must be inclusive and it must be green. Then the last thing is the whole institutional building. How do we reform the institutions of governance? And for me, I think devolution and decentralization are hugely important. I think I cannot sit in Calabar as your governor and know what is happening in Obaleko. The local governments in Obaleko must work. They must work. And they must work at the levels where you are beginning to touch that revolution that is happening at the community level. So that's where I would stop and say to you, Hannah, it's time for women to support women. And it's time for us to have a governor that is able to talk to its citizens and talk in ways that they would be able to accept that this is a different shift from where we stand. You probably have not seen my blueprint in the media space, because all of us are playing games with each other. We don't want to put it there and then people copy from one another. You know, so there's story there. Forgive us, we are playing games. But let me come back to something that Nkoyo raised about the concerns about the value system in politics. Yes, Nkoyo, but the greatest challenge we have today is if a woman does not emerge in the next 6 or 8 weeks as your candidate, forget it. In 2023, there will be no women. We have to win the battle inside the party, And that's the battle I am faced with right now. I may not be seen on many platforms because the fight is inside the party at this point in time. But I can tell you that if the Cross River State movement gets up and sets standards, and I can tell them a lot about what we can do and say, this is what we want, the political parties will start listening. It's time voices like yours, Pamela, and others begin to inform what you want for the state going into the future. The political parties will take you seriously. After candidates have emerged, they will not talk to you anymore. They'll move on and try to force that candidate on you as the choice that they have presented to you. You must be very interested in who the parties present to you. That is the big question. And that's the struggle many of us women are facing going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Dana Mary, I don't know if you're able to speak, but I think we probably have to wind the conversation down soon. I'm having a bit of technical challenges, but we sent out a correspondent in quote to sample opinion on the streets of Calabar about women in leadership. So I'm going to attempt to play that, and tell me if you can hear it, please.
The Cross River Movement. My name is Elizabeth Eleni. We all know that a special day is set aside in the month of March to celebrate women all around the world. With regards to this, we will be asking the citizens of Calabar what they think about women as it concerns leadership in our country.
I want to say that when we are talking about women, generally you know that in those days, it is believed that women should not be seen and they should be at the background, they should not be seen. But I don't agree with that, because most nations that have become great, like in Britain, you see they have somebody like Margaret Thatcher. And I learned that even the change that took place in Britain, the revolution that took place in Britain that brought about change in their community, it was women that were at the forefront. It was women that came up with policies and principles that have shaped their countries.
Nothing a man can do, a woman cannot do.
It's okay, because the same God that created a man created a woman. So they should be given equal opportunity to.
There are so many people that have the gift, they have the talent, they have the potential that can rule.
Create opportunities for them to do it, so that they can show the world what they are capable of doing.
I believe that women should be given opportunity.
The women now that are in leadership, though they are leading us and they are not leading us well, I feel that they should amend and try to make some changes to be better leaders. Those that are leading us well, we give them, we say kudos.
But I really encourage the government of the day that they should give women more sensitive position of leadership, so that at least we will know that we should check the gender balancing, not totally eradicating them out of the policy of the day.
My mentor is Ngozi Wela. That's a woman like me who has risen to the world. The world has found her fit to lead the whole world, and not just that in Nigeria. You know, when you hear Nigeria, you think everything bad is happening in Nigeria. That you see, even in Nazareth, good things can happen. So that woman has been chosen, and because of her track records, what she has been doing.
Looking at the family part, I don't really think that the woman should be the leader. Looking at even in the Bible, God said that the man is the head. So imagine a woman ordering the husband to do this, do that. I don't really think it's okay. But women being in other leadership positions, I'm fine with it.
Women, but I think they should be mentored to do the right thing. You understand? Because leadership is not forcing people or deceiving people, but it is doing the right thing and influencing them to follow you to do the right thing. And that will make the world a better place.
Okay, that's all for today. Thanks for joining us. My name remains Elizabeth.
All right, thanks very much. I think we need to bring the conversation to a close. Let me use this opportunity to thank our panelists today and our host as well. Thank you, Ambassador Toyo. Thank you, Mrs. Nkoyo Rapu. Thank you, Ms. Braid and Mrs. Okon. Thanks very much for joining our conversation today. Dana Mary, thank you very much for hosting, being such a wonderful host. Someone says, oh, can we have the panelists make closing remarks? So yeah, I think we can do that. So what I would ask is if each panelist can just take a minute to make a remark. I'll start with Mrs. Emilia Okon.
I would like to say thank you so much to everybody for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Saw, for being such a wonderful convener. And thank you so much to all our panelists. Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo, as usual, brought so much insight to the conversation. And of course, I like to say, Ma, we are trying our best to. We might not be doing mainstream politics, but the reorientation that we are doing on the background is still something that we are trying to do. And of course, I do agree we need to do a lot more to show support, especially for women who are in politics. I would say, hopefully this conversation doesn't stop here. Anybody who is in this space would have gained one or two information, one new skill that they would use wherever they found themselves. Otherwise, hopefully, we are going to engage further and in another platform. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mrs. Okon. I will move over to Ms. Braid.
Okay. I would thank you for inviting me. It was a very good panel, very high powered, very amazing panelists. Honored to speak with them. I'll just speak a little. My closing word is about, communication in general, and I think that this struggle is one where many people have passed the baton from generation to generation, and I would also love to have us document these things more. Women are socialized to not boast. So they don't write their biographies. They don't put down their stories. If they are talking about Ransom Kuti, it's that, she drove the first car. Nobody talks about how she went to China, was meeting with feminists in China, or was advising the first president of Ghana, So we need to, amongst ourselves, think really deeply about putting down the stories for the young boys and girls to see, so that we don't just have founding fathers. And these are women in every village, everywhere. And also to, in our own capacity, wherever we can, put women to speak on issues that are not just about women. Like if there's an issue about cybersecurity, and we know somebody that is a woman, let's have a young woman there talking about security matters, talking about financial matters and everything. Yes, let me keep it there. 1 minute.
Ms. Braid, thank you very much. And I've taken an interest in what you've said, because, the Cross River State movement, one of the things that we're looking to do in the near future is actually to bring out the history of our state. And obviously, the role that women have played in the history and the development of our state will certainly feature in that. Thank you very much. Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo, your closing remarks, please.
I just want to say that women cannot wait for another 4 or 8 years. We can't. We've got to get it now. That's all I can say. The opportunity is here for us over the next couple of weeks to push in as many women as we can get into the spaces that exist, right from the local to the national. Active politics requires a lot of partnership building. Women who want to see other women in can always support. It doesn't have to be financial. It just has to be speaking up in those spaces and in those rooms that count and matter, and just adding our voices to what we're doing. And I hope the Cross River movement would also take this up as a responsibility, because women just cannot wait anymore. We have so much to offer governments in governance, so much more to offer in changing the context of our country, and we shouldn't be denied that for any reason.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Toyo. So thanks very much to everyone who joined the conversation today. So our next conversation is going to be taking place on the 27th of March, and we hope to have the INEC Electoral Commissioner for Cross River State on the conversation. So we'd welcome everyone to join that conversation, because we'll be putting questions to him. So if you have any questions around, registration, the electoral process, that would be a great platform to ask those questions. Someone is asking why Mrs. Rapo wasn't invited to make closing remarks. Mrs. Rapo sent me a message saying that she had to drop off the conversation. So she's not with us right now. So thank you very much once again. And sorry for there were a few people that came on anonymously and made some comments on the platform. And, someone came on the conversation anonymously and made an uncomplimentary comment about an Esau. And, the person didn't mention his surname, but since I'm the only Esau on the conversation, I felt that, it could only have been directed at me. I wouldn't dignify the post, by reading it out at all. But I think I would just say for the record that, I do not have any niece that is 13 years old. And, no member of my family, as far as I'm aware, got pregnant at 13. In fact, no member of my family got pregnant at 13. So just to set the record straight. But it's also, I find it also very interesting. We've had these conversations for a while that when we have a conversation on women in leadership, we have mischief makers coming on board to, to try and derail. And I think maybe just speaks of the challenges that I guess, women face in our society. So on that note, thank you very much. If you've not joined the Cross River Movement, our website is www.crossrivermove.com. You can follow us on social media also, facebook.com/crossrivermove, twitter.com/crossrivermove, and instagram.com/crossriver.move. So we look forward to having you in 2 weeks' time on the 27th of May. Let's ask the INEC Electoral Commissioner for Cross River State some pertinent questions. If there's anything you don't understand about the political process, the timetable, all of that, that's a good opportunity for us to ask those questions. So thanks very much once again to our panelists. Thank you very much to Diana Mary for being such a wonderful host on this conversation. I wish you guys well, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.